Adobe Visual Design students. This video was created to discuss aspect ratio and image sizing. As we go over image size and file types this week, there's some important things to remember. This guy right here, Sean Bagshaw, is a great photographer. And whether we're creating a digital illustration that's going to go on Instagram or social media, or we're going to take a photograph and we're going to take it to social media, it's important to understand aspect ratios. So he's going to discuss for a second about Instagram, and I'm going to then have a little bit of a lesson that we're going to do together with our photos off our phones. So here we go. Let's watch a second of him.
Sharpen images myself in Photoshop using the TK Web Sharpener. Images must also fit within a 4:5 vertical aspect ratio. I don't know about you, but this often ruins my vertical images. Here are the main things to know when sizing for Instagram. The images you see in the feed are all 600 pixels wide, and the height changes depending on if the image is horizontal, square, or vertical. But you can reverse pinch images to enlarge them and see more detail. So you don't want to size images to 600 pixels wide. The maximum size that Instagram saves is 1080 pixels wide, so that's what you want to size to. Any larger than that and Instagram will downsize. For horizontal or square images,
So he goes on to say for horizontal or square images, you just keep it 1080 wide and you're okay. But for vertical images, it's a little difficult. That video is really good, and Sean is a great photographer, and I encourage you all to watch the whole video fully start from the beginning of the video, but I was really previewing that from about a minute in. So that being said, here is a photograph. I went to the Spencer Train Museum and I took an array of photographs. We're gonna let's go to one of my first ones. Let's see if I can revert it back to where it was. Yeah, so here we have a photograph, and this is a 2:3 ratio, which is the aspect ratio of most digital cameras. They'll always take 2:3s. Now we're going to look at the 2:3 versus the 4:5. Okay, and what he was saying is that if we take a 2:3, we'd end up with a lot of stuff getting cut off, and we don't necessarily want that. So what I'm going to do is going to go to File in Photoshop or Photopea. I'm going to go to File, New, and I would change the aspect ratio. I've changed this to pixels. We're going to go 1350 on the width. 1080 on the width by 1350 on the height. We can leave the resolution at 300, and we just say create. Now instantly you can tell the difference between this one right here and the last one I just had a second ago that was up. That one right there. This one looks a lot thinner and a lot taller or longer. So let's look at this one. This looks like a sheet of paper almost. Okay, so I'm going to go to File, Open, and I have downloaded a photograph onto my my computer, and I would encourage you to find a photograph that you've taken and you've downloaded onto your computer, and you'll see that the file will probably be in kilobytes. And we'll talk a little bit about kilobytes here for a second. When you're looking at kilobytes, understand that it would take 1,000 kilobytes to equal 1 megabyte. So that's what K stands for. Think about 1,000. So these are really tiny. They're sized for Instagram, and they're going to get the job done. And we're going to start with them. So let's go to this picture right here. I opened it. It has a lot of definition, great black and white. I'm going to hit Command or Control A to copy. I'm going to select all. Command or Control C to copy. And I'm going to go to that most recent file that I have right here. And I'm going to hit Command or Control V as in Victor. And then I'm going to hit Command or Control minus. And then if I'm on a Photoshop, I can hit Command T. But if I'm on Photopea, I have to go to Edit, Transform, Scale. So what I just did. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is if I'm in Photoshop, I can just click and drag this down if I'm using the newer version of Photoshop, and it will constrain the proportions. It won't stretch it. But I'm using an older version of Photoshop, so I'm going to hold down Shift and Command, and I'm going to pinch in. And I'm going to move by just clicking, not in the very center, but just clicking and moving it with the Move tool. Now, if I was with Photopea, I could do the same things. So I'm going to hit Command or Control plus to zoom in. And I still have a little bit of the photograph that's not fitting on there. So I'm going to hold down Command and Shift and pinch in just a little bit more. Just right there. Hit Return. And now I'm just going to use my cursor keys to move it a little to the center. So that looks pretty good. I would go to File, Save As, and choose JPEG. Okay, and I would call this insta underscore test underscore name. And I want you to put your name on there. So it would be insta underscore test underscore name. So I would go insta underscore test underscore Mr. Bush. I don't think you can do periods, but you wouldn't need them. And say save JPEG and say save. Now I could take that photo right there and email it to myself, download it on my phone, and post it to my Instagram if I had a social media account. If you don't, at least you could save it and you would know that it would be ready for web usage. And it wouldn't be cropped. We're not losing any of the photograph. So that's huge. Okay? All right. So you've learned a little bit about file types. You've learned about aspect ratios. And you've learned about how to use these on mobile media devices.